Today's first event, as I mentioned, is a cooking demonstration, and we would like to welcome back Sodexo
Absolutely.
As our partner in this event, and Chef Thomas Long, who joins us. They are going to be preparing today a wonderful recipe, and I have to admit I've already sampled it. It really is delicious and so easy to make at home. It's the garbanzo bean salad with plum tomato. Joining Chef Long today also is Angela Snyder. Angela is a dietitian with the Shady Grove Adventist Hospital Center for Fitness and Health. And Angela, come on up on the stage here. She's going to assist Chef Long in our first cooking demonstration.
Hi, everybody. As was mentioned, my name is Tom Long, and I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. This is my third year in a row doing cooking demonstrations for Shady Grove, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I actually work for Sodexo at another hospital health system in central Pennsylvania called Holy Spirit Health System, and I've been there 8 years. And I've learned what making a difference in healthcare, being an executive chef, does, and I absolutely enjoy it. Today's first recipe is an appetizer, or it can be a salad. It could be something you could serve on top of greens. It's very, very easy. And it's a garbanzo bean and plum tomato salad. And I'm going to show you a couple different things to make it. One of the first things I want to do is the recipe. I'm going to go over some of the ingredients. And the recipe calls for 4 tomatoes, fresh, seeded, and chopped. I'm actually going to show you how to peel the tomato because you don't really digest tomato skins. So if you can, and it's an easy thing to do to remove them. It's no big deal. So I'm going to show you how to do that real easy. And then we're going to seed them and chop them. And then garbanzo beans, just like this. And they get chopped a little bit. Green onions, fresh cilantro. It's got to be fresh cilantro, not the dried. It's not the same thing. Olive oil. And I'm going to use fresh lemon juice. And then ground cumin, paprika, salt, and pepper. That's simple. And it's something that you can make a couple days ahead, and it'll hold in your refrigerator for probably 72 hours at peak freshness. So the first thing I'm going to do is get some boiling water. Now you think, well, this is a salad recipe, but actually what I want to do is remove these skins. So this is your aroma tomato, and I just want to take the core out. Real easy. And then just put a little X right in the bottom of the tomato. Okay? And we're going to drop that in boiling water, only for a couple seconds. And if any of you ever grew up in a family where they did canning, all right, and they had to can peaches or tomatoes, this was a technique where they would use to remove the skin. All right, I was taught a long time ago as a chef, for dishes like this, you always want to take the skin off if you can, because again, like I said, we don't digest it. So we're just going to let that get hot, and you're going to see the skin is going to start to curl back a little bit. And when it's ready, I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to put it right over here in a bin of ice, just to cool it down and shock it. It's called shocking, where what we're going to do is actually stop the cooking method, okay? So that'll take just a couple minutes, because I don't want to cook the tomato. I want the tomato to still have that fresh, firm flavor. Some of our other ingredients, fresh cilantro, our green onions. There we go. This burner I'm working on today is called an induction burner, and it's actually heats with magnets. It's amazing. We have them in a lot of our accounts because we don't want to have gas stoves in the hospitals. But you'll see how easy see how the skin just starts to curl right off of there? We're going to put that in ice just to stop the cooking method. Just like that. I could have had a little more water, and it goes a little quicker if they're submerged. But you saw how long that took. It didn't take very long. And we want to shock them and cool them down because, number one, And this is something, again, you can do a day ahead of time before you make your salad, so you have it all ready. There we go. That'll only take a couple minutes. And while they're cooling down, I'm going to chop some green onions. Now, I only want the green part. That's what I like the best. It has a different flavor than the white. The white is what's under the ground. The green is what the sun hits. We only need a little bit. Now, when you cut these, you can cut them in all different ways. I like to cut them a little bit of an angle. And I like to cut them about 1/8 of an inch thick. That's it. For this recipe, that's about all you need. And now I'm going to do the cilantro. Now, cilantro, and Angela, I'm thinking for some people that have never touched or seen cilantro, we can pass some of it around. Sure. And then everybody can kind of smell it, rub the leaves. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of coriander. Coriander is the seed of cilantro. So you have this, it kind of has like an orangey, I always describe it to somebody as like orange parsley, but a little bit. But in salsas and certain dishes, it's irreplaceable. And they have dried cilantro on the market now in grocery stores. It is not the same, and it doesn't even come close. And this is not an expensive ingredient. And it's something that if you're going to use it, you want to get this. It makes a huge difference. Now, we don't want a lot of the stems. We really want the leaves.
And we do have one thing to point out for you. On your recipe card that you got, there is one typo on there. So Chef Long is going to use about 1.5 tablespoons worth of chopped cilantro. On your recipe card, it's mistaken. It says 1.5 cups. So we definitely want to cut that down to about 1.5 tablespoons of chopped cilantro.
You'll be chopping for a while.
It's going to make a big difference in your salad. So take out your pen and mark that cup out and write tablespoon in there.
All right. And I have my leaves all ready. And fresh herbs, if you can stack them together, makes it a little easier. The finer you chop them, the more flavor comes out. And you're going to see this doesn't take very long. When you're using your knife, you want to make sure you keep your fingers curled back. If you notice, I have a green cutting board that I'm working off of. A green cutting board. In a food service establishment, there's cutting board protocol. And a red cutting board is for like using red meats, and a green board is for using raw vegetables, and a white board would be for using ready-to-eat foods. And that's to avoid cross-contamination. And I don't know if you have a place like a restaurant store around here, but you can go buy these. They're not that expensive. It's not a bad thing to have in your home. All right, cilantro, very easy. Let's check our tomatoes. It should just be about ready.
And if any one of you have any questions about the nutrition of this dish or any other nutrition-related questions to this dish, just raise your hand. We have some ladies over here with some microphones that we can help answer any questions that you have about the nutrition information. So,
you see how easy that's, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. She was on a roll, too. So, see how easy the skin comes off? Just like that. All right, you discard that. And this isn't in your recipe. It's just something I recommend. It's a little extra work, and it doesn't take that long. And like I said, it's something you can do the day before. If you ever make bruschetta, this is a great way to make bruschetta too. Again, you don't digest tomato skins. Chop them ahead of time. You want to use a Roma tomato for that also. See, that wasn't hard. Now to take the seeds out, I like to just cut them in half and just give them a little bit of a squeeze, and you just kind of run your finger in there to get them out of there. These tomatoes are, this is not a time of year for tomatoes, so these are not beautiful ripe tomatoes, but they are what they are. The seeds actually and the juice will thin down your dressing a little bit, so that's one of the reasons you want to take that out of there. One more. All right. Now to dice these, I like to just cut them crosswise a little bit. Very quick. You want them about the same size as the bean. Salads like this, salsas, bruschettas, it's always nicer looking when everything is kind of the same size. If you have like the beans and then real big chunks of tomatoes, it doesn't look as good. Whenever you want to take a bite of the salad, you want to try to get a blend of all the ingredients. Almost done. And then our dressing is going to be olive oil, fresh lemon, cumin. I'm going to tell you a trick about cumin too. You can chop these up if you want to. I don't actually recommend it. It's not something you have to do. Now, these are a canned bean. So anything canned is what? Has a little more salt in it. Okay? If you want to avoid using a canned bean, they sell dry garbanzo beans, usually like in the Goya section of your grocery store. And if you really want to go that strict, then because we don't have a ton of garbanzo beans in here, but if you want to do that, soak them overnight, cook them till they're tender, drain them, cool them down, and then you can replace them. So that would be the difference. So.
And that's kind of the same rule we go by for any kind of canned bean product. It's going to have no sodium in the dried form. So if you purchase the dried form, soak them overnight, and cook them, you're going to have no sodium. Whereas the canned beans are going to have, depending on variety, some sodium in them. But they are coming out with more and more lower sodium varieties. So keep that in mind and keep an eye out for that whenever you are at the grocery store.
All right, you can see that that's a nice salad, and it's not expensive. You think about it, a can of beans, 5 tomatoes, 4 tomatoes, a little bit of a green onion, a little bit of cilantro. Might be the most hint because you have to buy those in bunches, but that's it. And I like to use fresh lemon juice if you can. Try to stay away from the bottled lemon juice that has a lot of sulfites in. They also sell now on the market a pasteurized citrus juice in the freezer that doesn't have the sulfites in that you can get if you want to avoid something like that. Some people have allergies about it. We have some samples coming out. All right, and then I'm just going to roughly, the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of lemon, which is probably about a half a lemon. And I made sure these are the seedless kind. Just put a little bit more in. Basically, what we're making here is a low-fat citrus vinaigrette. I don't know if you know what a vinaigrette is. A vinaigrette is generally, in the classic terminology, is 3 parts oil, 1 part acid. So if you were going to have a red wine vinaigrette, you would have a red wine vinegar of, say, 1 part and 3 parts of whatever kind of oil you like to use. What we're making is a low-fat vinaigrette because the acid is going to be more than the oil. So our oil is olive oil, okay? And we have olive oil light. We'll add that. Our spices, our cumin, salt and black pepper, and paprika. Paprika is to give it a little bit of color, not as much flavor. If you really want to get fancy, you make a smoked paprika now on the market if you want to give it a little bit of a twist. All right. And if you really like fancy paprikas, there's some of the Spanish paprikas have a little bit of heat to them. They have hot and sweet. You can go in that direction if that's something you wanted to do. Now, what I did here with the salt and pepper blend is, and this is a suggestion I like to make ahead of time too, is make yourself up a little salt and pepper blend. If you're trying to watch your sodium, do a 2-part pepper to 1 part salt. Okay, make it up ahead of time. Keep a little bit in a little cup in your cabinet. You don't want to make up too much because spices have a shelf life. All right, and then that way, when you sprinkle it on your ingredients, if it's too hot for you, you probably have just the right amount of salt. Okay, that's one way to look at it. Because when we have a salt shaker and a pepper shaker, we put pepper on, and then you can't always see the salt. That's one of the problems. You can't see the salt. You know, you taste it, but you don't see it. So mix it up ahead of time. Sprinkle a little bit on. I'm not going to say bam. A little bit of paprika. And again, the paprika's in there for color. And cumin. If you have cumin, if you're a real serious foodie, you can take cumin and roast it. And it gives it a much different flavor. And it brings that the oil and the cumins. All right? And then, like some people also buy the whole seed, the comino seed, and roast it and then grind it in a coffee bean grinder. And it gives it a nice flavor. You could, if I didn't have water in this pan, I could show you how to do it. You can actually do it skillet top, where you put some in a frying pan with like a dry pan over some heat, and just turn your spices till they get a toasted flavor. Just like that. That is how easy that dish is to make. How is it? Very good? I had nothing to do with it. The staff at the Shady Grove made it, and they do a great job. They make me look good. All right, that is it. Any questions? I don't know how we are on time.
Does anybody have any questions about the dish for myself or for Chef Long?
Sorry.
All positive, right?
Oh.
As far as the olive oil, regular olive oil as opposed to virgin olive oil?
If you're an olive oil connoisseur, some people have to have extra virgin because they like that strong olive oil taste. I actually like regular or light. I am not a super big fan of extra virgin. That's not something I have to have. And you pay a little bit more. So, pardon me?
Does it have to come from Harris Teeter?
No.
You're good. And the nutritional makeup versus the extra virgin and the regular olive oils, the nutritional makeup is the same. It's just a flavor difference
Right,
that you're
exactly.
going to find there.
It's to your own taste. If you don't like olive oil, you can substitute canola. Some people don't like olive oil. They're just not in favor of it. So canola is a more neutral oil that doesn't have that dominant flavor. So that's a personal preference. So and the oil there is really, the oil in this recipe is to help keep the beans coated so they don't dry out, because there's not a lot in it. It's more acid than it is oil. So, sir.
White plum tomatoes.
Can't hear.
White plum tomatoes.
Part?
White plum tomatoes.
White plum tomatoes. That's a great question. Plum tomatoes have more meat to them, less juice, and less seeds. And are just a little easier to work with. And you want something that's a little meatier. Slicing tomatoes, and you could swap out if you grow a hearty beefsteak tomato in your garden and you want to use something like that, you can substitute that, or an heirloom, absolutely. But plum tomatoes are just a little meatier, less seeds and juice.
Hi, if you do substitute the tomatoes, do you do the technique the same way with the little
Yes,
X?
any tomato. That will work with
Okay.
a
And
slicing.
Why do you do the little X on the bottom?
So you can start to get the skin to curl. If you didn't, it would keep the heat in and would to start to poach the tomato on the inside. And it's a way for you to tell that the skin is starting to come off. It'll start to curl off. So that's why you put the X on there. It's a starting point. And the same with coring it too. If you didn't core it, it would kind of stick around the core. And you don't want the core anyway. Nobody eats the core. So, any other questions? Those were all great questions.
All right. Enjoy, guys. We'll be back.
Right. Thank you
at
very much. Always a pleasure.
1 o'clock for another cooking demonstration with an entree.